Good evening, everyone. I'm Margaret Kessler, the Director of Operations for Asia Society, Northern California, and Seattle. I'd like to welcome our Board, Advisory Council, and all of our members. We're so excited to be here for Season 2 of SAM Talks. This is Asia Society Seattle's Arts and Culture series promoting understanding of Asia and the Asia diaspora. We are continuing our second season with tonight's program with the visionary, engineer, pioneer, MiMi Aung. We have many programs at Asia Society Seattle, executive roundtables on tech, policy and culture, access to virtual programs in Northern California, and many special member events, plus awesome cultural programming like this. We welcome new members. If you have questions about membership, please see one of the Asia Society team members after the program, or please feel free to use the QR code. Please note that we are on the record, recording, and the video will be posted on the website. A huge thank you to our SAM series sponsor, Alaska Airlines. And finally, SAM Talks is possible because of our partners at the Seattle Art Museum. We thank them, and I'd like to invite on stage Jason Porter to say a few words. Jason is the Kayla Skinner Deputy Director for Education and Public Engagement at Seattle Art Museum.
Here I am. I can't see you, but I know you're out there. Good evening and welcome. Thank you, Margaret. On behalf of Seattle Art Museum, its staff, board of directors, members, and volunteers, thank you for being here. As always, we're thrilled to partner with the Asia Society and are really excited about tonight's installment of this SAM Talks series. First, I'd like to thank the whole team at Asia Society and the staff here at SAM. We work collaboratively across 2 organizations, 2 cities, and among many different teams to pull these programs together. And I want to appreciate the dedication and hard work of everyone involved. So let's give everyone a round of applause, please. I'd also like to acknowledge that Seattle Art Museum is on Indigenous land, the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people. We honor their ongoing connections to these communities, past, present, and future. I also wanted to mention that in addition to tonight's talk, your ticket also entitles you to visit the galleries upstairs, including our newest exhibition, Anila Aga, Geometry of Light. It's an immersive and very beautiful exhibition that's on view through April 19th. If tonight's program appeals to you, you'll want to attend our Saturday University talk on April 11th about the aesthetic and political connections between revolutionary movements in India and the United States. Curator at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco, Padma Maitland, will be delivering the talk. And for more exciting South Asian programming, please join us on Sunday, April 19th for an all-day celebration and performance of Indian classical music via our partners at Ragamala. And don't miss our latest open house here at the Asian Art Museum on Friday, May 22nd. These quarterly free evening programs feature DJ sets, gallery tours, and delicious drinks and snacks. It's a great way to spend the evening with your family, a place to meet up with friends, or a romantic date spot. So, RSVP today on our website. Now I'll turn it back over to Margaret to introduce tonight's speaker. Thank you again for visiting Seattle Art Museum.
Thank you, Jason. We're thrilled to have MiMi Aung with us tonight, who will share her story, followed by a fireside chat and audience Q&A, which will be moderated by space policy expert Dr. Namrata Goswami. First, here's a little background on MiMi. MiMi Aung is the Director of Technical Program Management for Amazon LEO, an Amazon initiative to increase broadband access through a constellation of satellites in low Earth orbit. Prior to joining Amazon, she served as project manager of the Ingenuity Mars helicopter at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, where she led the team from early development through the first ever rotorcraft flight on Mars, a virtual Wright brothers moment, but on another planet. Her groundbreaking achievements have earned her extraordinary recognition. MiMi was selected as one of BBC's 100 Women, named one of Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People, and included in Bloomberg 50, the people and ideas that defined global business. She was inducted into the National Academy of Engineering and awarded an honorary doctorate by McGill University. MiMi holds Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees in electrical engineering from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. She spent more than 35 years in aerospace working on signal processing, communications, and spacecraft systems for both deep space exploration and near-Earth space systems. Now let's get started and hear from MiMi herself.
Thank you for the welcome. All right. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be here. It's really an honor. So I hope to share with you a story of a girl, her journey across the globe, literally, and in the world of space, exploration, and STEM, the incredible opportunities, projects that she's had a chance, opportunity to work on, the challenges, and the unforgettable moments along the way. The journey is still continuing. The young girl is all grown up. It's me. So with that, I'd like to start with one of those unforgettable moments on the journey.
Earlier today, Ingenuity should have autonomously performed its first flight attempt on Mars. Now the team is ready to receive the data that will tell them whether we've made history.
This is downlink. We are beginning to see data products.
Rotor motors appear healthy. All actuators appear healthy.
Internet is reporting having performed spin-up, takeoff, climb, hover, descent, landing, touchdown, and spin down. Altimeter data confirms that Ingenuity has performed its first flight of a powered aircraft to another planet.
We can now say that human beings have flown a rotorcraft on another planet. Let's get back to work and more flights. Congratulations.
That was an incredible day. So starting from the beginning, I was actually born at the University of Illinois while my parents were foreign students there pursuing their PhDs. And so this was in the 60s, and they were pathfinders themselves. In fact, my mother, who's, was 4'11", 85 pounds, Burmese woman wearing traditional sarong on campus. She used to tell me, those doors at Illinois were so heavy, right, for the Illinois weather, and she had to put all of her 85 pounds behind it to open those doors, and push those doors she did. She did get her PhD in mathematics there, and in fact, she's the first woman in Burma to get a PhD in mathematics from an American university. So she was a role model to me, even before I knew she was. And after my parents both got their PhDs, they went back to their home country of Burma, Myanmar. And I was 2 years old then, went back, and so that's where my formative years were. So I learned, I grew up in the culture, and this is where my education started, and my love for math began. And also that's where my foundation was set. In fact, I still do math timetables in my head in Burmese. So. And then when I was about 11, we moved to Malaysia. And so there, I got to make friends from other countries, the world, saw the other cultures, and see the world, so to speak, and I really loved that. And so in those days, I was in countries that didn't have space programs. But, I was always fascinated by space, right? You look at the sky and you see the stars and you wonder, what's out there? Are we alone? Is there, life elsewhere? But I didn't even know, I would have a chance to even dream about it. I didn't even know that I could dream about it, right? Because I was, in the countries that didn't have space programs. In the meantime, I continued to do well in school. And so when I was 16, my parents decided to send me back to the US to follow further education. I was the only member of the family that could come back to the US at the time because I was a US born citizen. And so they sent me on a plane by myself to the best man at their wedding and him and his wife. This is back in 80s, early 80s. I mean, no internet, you definitely don't have camera. I didn't even have pictures of the couple that was gonna pick me up, right? So there's my family seeing me off at the airport with my one suitcase, and really a big question on the other side, right? So it's daunting, but exciting at the same time. So I arrived in Blue Mountain, Illinois, and I was a 16-year-old senior, went straight to senior year, new country, staying with friends and new culture, new school. It was exciting. I remember the day I was dropped off, the first day of school, right? So there's an American high school, I am dropped off, and there is where I was dropped off in a long sidewalk, it was a sidewalk, to the entry of the high school. And that at the moment to me was like the longest sidewalk ever in my mind, right? And taking that first step, I never forget it, right? So because there I was in the mission, I'm here to learn, right? I want to further my education. After the first few steps, everything was all right. A wonderful senior year, I graduated, really fun high school. And I arrived back at the University of Illinois where I was born, now a 17-year-old freshman. I wanted to study math because that's what I love, right? But my parents said, no, you should study something with application. So I picked engineering. Then my parents worried that that's a male-dominated field, engineering, there'll be glass ceilings, etc., and wanted me to do something else. But there, I stood my ground. I really pursued, followed my heart, and stayed in engineering. Had graduated with a bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering. So then next comes the big leap, the question mark, right? And as I was starting to look for jobs, right, the next big transition, right, what is next in this working world? One of the professors mentioned that, hey, there is a place called NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California that track these tiny signals from space, right, and track them, amplify them with very low noise amplifiers, and then they process the signals. You're a signal processing and communications major. By the way, that's the field I fell in love with, signal processing communications, a lot of math. You should pursue that. And voila, it was at this moment I realized, because you're moving so much around the world, right? I mean, just from one country to the other, all the different changes. You get disconnected like when you were young, right? Like space is cool. I realized, oh my goodness, I have arrived at having a chance of going for a place, right, that is going to do space exploration. And go for it, I did. I pursued an opportunity to work at NASA, JPL, and I, actually got 2 offers there and went and worked there and really enjoyed, it really was a dream come true. And from one project to the other, next thing I knew, I'd been there 30 years. So when I say I follow my heart, like, I'm not kidding. Like, I really, follow my heart. And so amazing time at JPL. So at JPL, space exploration, to share with you a sense of what, deep space exploration is. These are missions that are pursued, like spacecraft that are sent, space missions, to get scientific answers from very distant planets. Okay? So from engineering perspective, what is the background? Well, first, everything is very far. Like between here and Mars, a signal that you send to Mars will take anywhere from 4 to 20 minutes, depending on what the distance between Earth and Mars at that time. Think about Saturn. Okay, a signal you send could take like 80 minutes. So these are very far. So the system, deep space missions that we're making to get these scientific results, right? They have to operate at very large distances from Earth. And the systems that we innovate, build, operate have to be autonomous, complex, and first of a kind. And that's the world that that's why I was there for 30 years, just having an amazing time of my life. And so with that, the first, at this point, talking of my career, I'm actually now at a place where I can actually apply, things I've learned, right? So that was a really big step up in my mind also. And the first job I had was in the Deep Space Network. So this is tracking these tiny signals from a spacecraft far away. For example, Cassini spacecraft at Saturn, you saw the very far, planet. The transmitter is about 20 watts. I mean, that's a fraction of light bulbs, you have at home. That little 20-watt signal, has to come all the way, back to Earth and be tracked. So it's tracked by very large antennas. For example, this is a 70-meter diameter, so it's like 3/4 of the length of a football field. Like you can see a truck here. For reference, right? So I was getting to work on signals where the signals were being received by large antennas. And oh, by the way, this was now in the 90s. Those days I had a chance to walk on that dish. I mean, one of those unforgettable moments. And these signals are then amplified by these low noise amplifiers in the back so that the signals can be processed. Well, incidentally, the low noise amplifier, I met and married the expert in low noise amplifier at JPL. And I was still married to 2 kids. I think he's here somewhere. So another unforgettable moment. And so with that, really, now as a signal processor, communications engineer, I was living my dream, and so dreams really do come true. And then my career progressed within JPL from the Deep Space Network side to now looking at spacecraft systems and really pursuing different capabilities, pushing autonomous capabilities and, making missions more advanced. And again, this is now at this point absolutely like getting a chance to perform engineering and innovating systems. Incredible. Then in around 2014, I had the incredible opportunity to lead the Ingenuity Mars helicopter. Right, so this, at this point, was opportunity to apply all the engineering experience I had now into leading, managing a mission that's considered very difficult. We'll talk about that, out of the world difficult. But it also meant that I had to now learn like all these other disciplines, not just the areas that I've been working in. So again, expanding your horizon and really expanding and leading a team that in all like different technical and logistics, facilities, accommodations, right? All you really have to expand the breadth so that you can lead an end-to-end project responsible for it to be successful, strategically, technically, steer, within budget, within the time, and with the performance that's needed. So. A few minutes about why it's so difficult to fly at Mars, why it was considered impossible in the beginning, because the atmospheric density is very thin over there, like 1% compared to what's here. So for a rotorcraft to lift, right, you need atmospheric density. So because it's so thin, and also the vehicle has to fly in the thin atmospheric density, it has to keep very warm. It has to keep itself warm at night, like temperature drops to like temperature of dry ice, at night. It has to charge itself from the sun. It has to be able to fly autonomously, take pictures, send data back, et cetera. So all of that capability had to be packed into a vehicle that weighed less than 4 pounds on Earth, like 1.8 kilograms mass. And so you can imagine like why it was considered not possible. By the way, on top of it, the vehicle that built also has to survive the launch vibration dynamics. It has to survive radiation exposures, et cetera, et cetera. So starting with that, the journey that our team took is first, show and convince everyone it is possible to even lift a vehicle. If you spin fast enough, people didn't even believe, even though models show that it was possible, to say, how is it possible to lift? So this is in a chamber, pumped down to near vacuum, backfilled with just enough atmosphere to represent Mars. And we show that we can lift, and but. And so that was the first step. So at that point, like there were half believers, half non-believers. Half of those non-believers started to say, oh, you really can lift, but yes, we need closed loop control, right, to make sure it works. So the next phase we took is we built a proof of concept vehicle took it back to the chamber now, right? And now it isn't just, lifting and spinning and trying to remote control from the outside. This is an autonomous system now that's actually then, sensing the environment and closed loop control of the vehicle. This was an incredibly important flight because at that point, folks no longer said, this is not possible, that it's not possible to fly at Mars. The next question became, can you build that design now to a full vehicle that is under 1.8 kilograms? You're counting every gram that has to now contain these solar arrays, right? Not just a rotor system, the solar arrays, the computers, the batteries, the sensors, the landing gear, right? All of those capability that you need. Can you build it in that mass constraint? And so we succeeded in that. Anyway, there's a whole nother presentation about how challenging it was. We made it. And this is the picture of after we flew that other flight that you saw in the same chamber, right, flown in the Mars-like atmospheric density. We were then authorized to build the final version, the one that's going to Mars. So when you look in the news about Ingenuity Mars helicopter, this is a close-up picture of Ingenuity Mars helicopter. We were there, a bunch of us were there when this picture was taken, right before it was going to be shipped to Florida for launch. And so there it is at Florida. It was attached to the belly pan of the rover that was going to carry it. And there it is, sideways. A whole nother presentation I'll have to give you. Another challenges. Launch, went to Mars. And here's our little helicopter deployed on Mars, little 4-pounder, yes. And surviving the night on its own, charging itself, getting ready for flight. So this is amazing. You see the rover tracks after the rover dropped it and drove away. And this is the helicopter that we've been coddling in our chamber, right, for like a year and a half. And on April 19, 2021, this is the most important flight. There is our Ingenuity first flight at Mars. And that was the ultimate reward, really for our team. Like all the hard work we did, we were so superstitious, we were afraid to cheer any of the successes in the chambers. Here we let ourselves, cheer. And this is from Perseverance rover, had the cameras on board. That was filming, taping it, imaging and taping. And there was one surprise that day for us, besides the gift of flying, that was amazing, all right? We had to be ready for all consequences. We knew that Ingenuity was going to take a picture of the ground. What we didn't expect was the shadow, that it would be taking an image of its own shadow. So this was the first image from the camera that came, and it was just a surreal day. So a team, something like this doesn't happen with 1-2 people, 1-2 discipline. As I mentioned, right, that's where I had to really grow. And it takes all technical disciplines, logistics, business, collaboration across different centers with the private industry, et cetera. And so we'll talk, I think Namrata and I'll talk more about this later. There are a lot of backstories about, team. When you can talk about team and, dedication, et cetera, but there really are, it takes a lot to make something like that happen, but we bonded, right? This is an amazing picture that I always value, a lot of dedication. There were courageous moments, literally, I will probably talk more about it, Ingenuity, Perseverance, and Ingenuity really, truly rewarded us, kept flying for 2 3/4 years. Our requirement was 5 flights. Just survived 30 days, went to fly over 72 flights. So at this point, I had been at JPL for about 30 years. And again, what's next, the unknown, et cetera. So I thought very carefully about what I wanted to do next. I knew I wanted to go work on a mission that's ambitious, that's complex, and that has a huge impact. And so that's when I landed at Amazon, working on Amazon Leo, which is Amazon's low Earth orbit satellite broadband network. Really drawn by the mission to provide, connectivity in all parts of the world, high quality connectivity based on a constellation of satellites. And I'm personally drawn by the areas, because this will include areas that have poor connection or no connectivity. I'm projecting back to me as a young girl, not just having enough homework, always craving for more educational material, et cetera. So drawn by this, that's my huge move that I made. I left a very comfortable and amazing nest right? JPL, my career was set. I mean, I knew folks, but I was really drawn by the mission. So I moved to the private sector for the first time. And there, really, I had to learn, right? You have to leave all your reputations and all that behind. You're starting up new. You have to earn trust. You have to earn your reputation. And also the business is done differently, like, especially at Amazon. Like, we do things at large scale, right? Fast and at scale. That's very different than the, traditional aerospace environment that I grew in. But it's a huge opportunity, right? Because you are able to do complex missions like this in a timely manner. And so, boy, did I learn. I contributed everything I can with everything I learned. I knew from my experience, but then I had to learn like crazy. And so, in my 50s, really doing that. So I just want to share, never too old to learn and grow. Because that growth and the learning, I would never trade it back for anything. It's just an amazing journey. So never too old to learn and grow. So finally, in closing, I really do believe that all of us, everyone, has something or things, to contribute that are unique and special for each of us. And when you find that mission that you really believe in, making happen, like if you truly, it's not everything that you truly believe in, but when you find that truly believe in, give it all. I really believe you can take dreams to reality. So I guess the formula I followed is like a combination of what you're good at, what you like to do, and what you really believe is needed, right? So when you find that intersection, really putting like surreal amount of hard work, but it won't feel too bad because you really believe in it, but it really surreal amount of hard work and really critical thinking. And I really do believe that you can take dreams to reality. So I really would love for all of us to remind ourselves to pursue, that, intersection. Or when you come upon that intersection, don't take it for granted because it's a gift. Like it doesn't come all the time, right? But when you get it, it's that sweet spot. Really go for it with abandon. Just go for it, and let's take all our dreams into reality. So. With that, sky's not the limit. Thank you.
That was incredible. Thank you, MiMi. Now we're going to transition to a fireside chat with MiMi and Namrata, followed by audience Q&A. Before we do that, let me share a little bit about Namrata. Dr. Namrata Goswami is an author, scholar, and educator whose work spans space policy, international relations, and ethnic identity. She currently teaches at Johns Hopkins University's School of Advanced International Studies. Her research career has taken her from New Delhi to Oslo, Melbourne, and Heidelberg, with fellowships at some of the world's leading policy institutions, including the United States Institute of Peace and a Fulbright Senior Fellowship. She was awarded a Minerva Grant by the Office of the Secretary of Defense to study great power competition in outer space, and in 2019 she testified before the U.S. Economic and Security Review Commission on China's space program. In 2019, she brought her story to a TEDx stage at the Rosa Parks Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. Please welcome Dr. Namrata Goswami, and welcome back MiMi Aung.
Test. Yeah, it's working.
Thank you so much, Asia Society, and thank you, MiMi. That was exceptionally inspirational. I was sitting there and I could feel your excitement and the paths of your life. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So first of all, it's a privilege, and thank you to Asia Society for hosting this exciting moment for me. I flew from DC to be here with you, and I love your weather. So what we are going to do today is something that I really enjoy, and that is to dig a little bit more deeper into your life. So we're going to go into the human side of extraordinary work, the kind of work you heard just before this, including the risk we take, the perseverance needed to turn ambitious ideas into reality, and the balance between personal values, leadership, and mission-driven efforts. For me, these kind of journeys are very captivating because in my own life, I grew up in the mountains of Northeast India, where the skies were exceptionally dark. And so I remember seeing the beautiful stars and being inspired by it. And these are very remote areas. And so in my life, before I came to the US, I did a lot of work on ethnic conflicts in Northeast India. And some of the path in terms of getting data from areas that had very little roads, but where you had to take very difficult paths, reminded me of the story that MiMi was also telling us today. And so some of the most fond memories in my life are from those data that I gathered in this difficult area. And so I was telling MiMi before we came up on stage that one of the memory was that one evening after gathering data for my work, the book called The Naga Stories from the Field, which is published by Oxford University Press, I was in this very remote mountain village and I was really tired and it was raining and I wanted to get back to the place where I was living. So there was this very wonderful old woman who saw me. I don't know her. She's a stranger. So she called me and she said, you look very tired. Are you hungry? I'm like, yes. She said, come into my house. And I think she gave me all the food that she had gathered from her field for a month. She cooked everything to feed me. And so those are the kind of memories you remember when you think about the difficulties of your life and the kind of beauty that those lands bring. And this brings me to MiMi because there is a connection between you and me. And so we come from the very similar areas. She's from Burma. I'm from the northeast of India, which is right across the border from Burma. And I remember the beauty of the border areas of Burma when I went there. So in that context, and in fact, because of that connection, I would like to get a little bit deeper into your own life and some of the themes that I saw in my life from people that I encountered included risk they took in the lives that they lived. They also committed to ambitions, the ambitions that they had. And so in that particular context, the first question that I would like to hear from you is, when you look back on the life that you have led and the beautiful story you told us, what are some moments when you took a leap because you strongly believed in the mission, even if the outcome was not guaranteed and the journey looked very hard?
Yes, so a couple examples. The first one is the backstory behind leading the Mars helicopter. When that concept came up at JPL, I was what's called a deputy division manager. Division is about 1,000 engineers. I was number 2. There are 2 managers that does it. It's a good position, all poised, to move on to division manager and higher, et cetera. Okay. In that setting, one of the sections in the division came up with the idea of the Mars helicopter that the director of JPL, Dr. Alachi, had, encouraged. And so they gave me the Mars helicopter as an additional duty. So, hey, a lot of people believe it's not possible, but theory is showing that with the technology that's advanced by then, this is around 2012, it could be possible. So I took it on as an additional duty. As I dug in more and more into it with the team, the team started bonding. We had our algorithms that are matching to how we were going to build it, how we were going to test it. I couldn't really balance 2 jobs anymore at that point. So I remember going, and that my job was held for about a year, right? Because the Mars helicopter was the most uncertain job you can imagine on lab at that time. Because all those incremental tests that you saw, because the helicopter was optional, right? It's a technology demonstration. Any of those tests, any phases we failed for any good reason or bad reason, doesn't matter, it would be just canceled. So it was the most uncertain job. But at that moment, after about a year, I knew that I had to give it all if I really want this to succeed. And I remember the day I just walked up to the division manager and say, I think you have to let me go. It's okay. I'm going to go all out for the Mars helicopter leading the team. And It was just, and then some of the section manager friends says, "MiMi, what are you doing?" And I didn't even hear the question, and I just did it. And this was, again, by then, this is about 2014. It was committing to this call, this mission that I didn't know until 2021, right? April, whether it was, and it was wildly successful. None of that was guaranteed, right? So much uncertainty. So I think it is an example of where I just go with both feet, again, it's that intersection, right, of what I like to do, what I'm good at, and like for the Mars helicopter, you really need tying together interdisciplinary teams, and then, just organizing and making sure we get there in time with the engineering performance and within budget, and what I really believe, adding aerial dimension to space exploration, which doesn't exist. So it's that intersection that I was showing. I just went all out for it, and without any guarantee, left a very nice position, but rewarded in 2021. And the second example would be then again moving to private sector, right? And so again, leaving, after 30 years, you've established yourself, and leaving that to a world where you have to start building your reputation again and all of that. But I really believe in Amazon Leo. I really believed in the mission, right? So again, it's about going for it, and again, it's been an amazing journey, like I said, learning and growth. Wouldn't trade it for anything. So, yeah, that's an example.
Oh, yeah, that's beautifully said, because especially in terms of when you're already in a career and then you have to move, and you actually decide to move,
Yes.
that there is something within you that seeks it. That mission, right? And as I was listening to you, the other thought that came to my mind, so besides doing work on identity and ethnic conflicts, for example, in the India-Burma border, my greatest love is space policy and space exploration. So I teach that at Johns Hopkins today. And so when you were speaking, and you said that when you were in Malaysia at the time did not have a space program. And today,
Yes.
I have to tell you that Malaysia does have a space program.
Yes.
And that I was asked to talk about how the Association of Southeast Asian Nations can actually build a space program. And then they're interested in launch, for example, Indonesia. So there is it. There is a huge interest in space and the excitement of space in Asia. And so you represent that. I felt that in the presentation you did. So then the second question that comes to my mind is, listening to you, and then when you talked about how you move careers, what does support look like to you in that context?
Yeah, there are a couple examples I'd love to share. One thing is, definitely family, friends, community. So, and I think we'll talk a little more about, how commitment and how much it takes. So you really do need family support. So I was gone so much. I mean, I did lose a lot of time with the family. And so I think my son is in the audience here. I don't know, he was about 13 years old or something at the time. And he literally, like a teenager, maybe 12, came up to me. He goes, we're surviving only because of Dad, right? and it was half joke, but half was absolutely true. And I never forgot that moment, right? Because it really is, it's the ultimate support, right? Yeah. You have that. And then within the work in the community, right, the professional community, the support along the way from mentors, coworkers, friends are very important. So one example, I'll probably tie it a little bit to our cultural conversation we're talking about, there is that humbleness and the confidence, okay? Confidence to pursue these dreams, humbleness because I was brought up in a very, humble culture, humble family, so being humble is most important, which is hard to balance, with going for something with, bold. And so you have to go for it, to pursue. You have to be bold and you have to pursue. Easier said than done. And I remember my first supervisor, Ernie Stone, about 2-3 years into working for him, I think he saw something in me that I can, that I'm able to do things well. And so he said, hey, I'm forming this team and you should lead it. And I remember saying, oh, I've just been here 2-3 years. I think I'm not ready or something. I don't know. I said something like this. And so he appointed somebody else. I saw who he appointed and go, wait, like if that person can do it, I know I can do even more. And I remember,
I love that.
Right? And I remember the moment, and I said that to Ernie. I said, hey, like that person, I could have done it. And he really looked at me at that moment and he says, are you learning your lesson at this moment? Like, do not underestimate yourself. Right, so those are the kinds of, like you say, support or like really valuable, where somebody cares enough to like really stop you, and that's a lesson that I keep using like the rest of my career so far. From that was in, I don't know, 93 or something like this, and I still use it, today. So you really support comes from all around, and you can't do these things without support.
Yeah, support, inspiration, so much, right? So I can share a story of my life. So I remember when I was in school in this remote mountain town, a few of us, we were about age maybe 6, 7. So we got very inspired by a song by Pink Floyd called Another Brick in the Wall. And we decided that we will not be a brick in the wall. We'll do something different, right? And so it's fascinating you say that, like the kind of inspiration, where you get it from.
Right.
And today, of course, we know that there is so much to it, right? So one thing that I wanted to highlight there, and I hear this, my father was a musician. He was a classical Indian music singer. And one of the things he told me growing up is that you don't become a good guitarist, or you do not become a good singer or a writer without hard work. Hard work is key. Talent is something, but you have to work on your talent, right? So in that context, when I look at your life and what you presented here, it is a lot of hard work. I know you were smiling there when the helicopter took off, right? But can you tell us a little bit about what does hard work mean in that context?
Yeah, really, I think concept is good, but it really takes a lot of work. So first, hard work. I really believe like the last 10% of a job literally takes about 90% of the work it takes to finish. It is very difficult to finish. It is good to start, but it's really difficult to finish. So the kinds of hard work, I think I alluded earlier about the sacrifice, the long hours, 6, 7 days a week. Just because, especially space exploration in the world, but it doesn't, I really don't, there is no job that isn't hard at all. In space exploration too, once you launch, it's the ultimate one-way door. Like there is nothing you can repair, so you're constantly working. We have to test this, all the cases. So what happens? Testing and then finding things that are unexpected, and then you have no choice. You're so committed, right, that you're just going to do whatever it takes. So example would be being gone a lot from home, but I remember a specific example. One of the team members got married in April. He didn't take a honeymoon until November. So, that's true. And I remember one test. We were testing a lot in the chamber that you saw, and one test wasn't going too well. And we were just at the cusp of breaking through, but it was going to take, the rest of the night, and it was going to probably take the next day to resolve. And the person sitting next to me is one of the young engineers, and I knew he had this vacation to Taiwan. Like, it wasn't like a trip to, I don't know, locally in like Chicago or, something far, but not, not so close. I mean, this is to another country. I mean, with his friends that are living in another country. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm just thinking, right, how do we approach this? And then somebody came to me, not Mike that was sitting here. Somebody came and they whispered to me, he goes, you realize, Mike just messaged his friend. He just canceled his trip to Taiwan. He's just going to stay. Right, so in that moment, I have, one of those unforgettable moments, right, where it was just a personal decision, personal sacrifice. So those are a couple of, a few of the examples, but there are a lot of those.
Yeah, so, also that you have to sometimes take that decision, as you said, at the spur of the moment. Because it's required of you, right? And so you brought that out very well. So in that context, as I was listening to you talk, and I had a question in my mind, which is that when you work on something as globally consequential as the Mars helicopter project, because it's not just the US, the whole world was watching, right, inspired by it and the kind of hard work it took. So in that context, I would like to hear, I know you talked about this a little bit backstage as well, as to when you want to give a message, for example, to younger people, that how do you persevere when it becomes challenging? How do you actually continue to remain committed? Because some people give up. And so would you have anything to offer in a sense that how do you continue on a project and persevere, especially when I know you're very focused on it at that moment of time, right? But it's also a project that has such consequences for space exploration because you're going to another planet and actually sending a entity that is going to showcase a very new capability. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why, again, coming to that intersection, you really have to believe in the mission, right? And so when you then you become very driven by it. So, example of perseverance. It's the message here is there are good challenges, and then you work hard, and then you get, and I guess the thing would say is setbacks. Whew, they definitely punch you in the gut, right? And so one example would be Ingenuity, the picture that you saw. It's very intricate. Again, whole nother presentation I'd love to give, but very intricate. And we were building this version that was going to Mars, and grueling, just long hours, working. And in the last phase of building it, just in the final rotor system being put into the cube in the integration phase, like literally hours before there's the last phase, a discovery was made. Just something about just a limited. There were insulation, with the battery and area, and we got setback. There was a little spark in the last mating, and as soon as that happened, I got the call, as the project manager, and we, immediately had to deal with it. And at that moment, from being hours away, right, to you realize, okay, this is serious. And so there, I think the perseverance of, okay, first, no panicking, and to be very technically think through, and then very calmly being ready to go into the mode of not missing that bus. We're getting onto that rover, right? And so being very quick in responding, and also not losing that, I can't believe this kind of feeling. And then really, had to add it took another 3 weeks or something, which is a long time from something that's a few hours away. So there were many moments like that, right? Where we go, okay, we finally made it. And then there's a setback. And I think our team was just always very, okay, wow, we're not done, and then let's get on and roll our sleeves in because we have this much time left, and this is how we're going to fix it. This is the installation, this is it, et cetera, and quickly moving on. So it's something that a team quality and individual quality that's a necessary ingredients. No job. There is no such thing as easy job. I know I'm sounding like a broken record. That just isn't. It's a resilience. You have to be ready for setbacks, and then be constructive about recovering, getting back on the track, and we're not going to miss that bus.
So then I have to ask you a question rooted in culture, right? So for perseverance, for courage, for taking leadership, you also need to be assertive. Yeah. And sometimes, by that I mean, you have to take sometimes difficult choices which might not be liked by someone, right? So you mentioned, and I like to draw back to the mountain culture, the northeastern Indian culture, and the Burmese culture, right? Where I remember growing up and being told that it's always important not to, as you said, be humble, not to be too assertive, to maintain tranquility, right? So we get up with all these concepts and in our lives. And so what was the challenge you faced? Because I know you had to assert leadership.
Yes.
Given that cultural rootedness in many ways, but sometimes which can also make you have a difficult time to become that leader. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah, definitely. I definitely have two sides. As I mentioned, I was brought up to be humble, never talk about anything that you've accomplished, that you and I are brought up the same way. Our parents never complimented us. It's just, that kind of culture. But in going for bold missions and in leading, you do have to have that, be decisive and be confident. So at least my method has been always objective. I'm very mission driven. So with that, I guess that's how I'll say I get a clear conscience on being, when you need to be assertive, you just do what it takes. So I take it as a mission that I'm pursuing. And so I can give one example. When the Mars helicopter was first being tested, it was, we spin the blades and look at the lift and the counter, the cancellation of the torque. And we measure it like held onto a fixture. The first time that we had to dangle it, the helicopter, once we knew that this, hey, we're canceling the torque, the rotor is spinning very well, it's behaving so that when we dangle it from a tether and spin it, the helicopter won't be going, crazy and self-destruct. Okay, we had enough data to do that. And it was time to do that, right? Because you have to keep moving. I mean, you're going to be flying. But at that moment, it was extremely scary, right? Because as I mentioned, any of the phases that any of our tests broke, we didn't have time to rebuild anything because of the budget constraint, schedule constraint, and it would mean our project would get canceled. So these are high-risk decisions and phase. And so when time came for us to dangle and run it in a tethered manner, there was a disagreement amongst the team about saying we're not ready. And I remember it's the first time we actually had a really big disagreement. I mean, we disagree all the time, and then we disagree, commit, move on to the next. But this one, like one of the leads actually says, not ready. And I remember giving like 5 more days, something like that, because we don't have so much time. Okay, go run your analysis. 5 days later, it was the same thing. No, nothing more we can do, but we have to move on. And so, in fact, one person walked out, like the very important person. It was so much stress, and I don't discredit that person. It was the pressure was just so high, saying, I can't support this. And that's an example where I found myself going, well, now I'm the project manager. It is my responsibility, and we have reached the point. So polling very carefully each technical discipline. If I gave you X number of days, what could you do more? Actually polled everyone and really came to the conclusion that it is time to just take the residual risk. And at that moment, I just felt the ownership, right? At that point, I've listened to everybody. I own the decision going forward. I represent the team, but I'm willing to stand behind it regardless, and you move on. So when you talk about courageous moments and perseverance or having guts, etc., that was an ultimate example, because it is the person that walked out, he was right. I mean, it could be, a bad moment, but then you really have to be very practical and say it's time to move on, and do we have enough result? And I remember that moment where I go, this is it. I've owned this. I'm confident. I represent all of you, and let's go for it. And of course it worked. It was fine. The person who walked out did come back in. He celebrated just as much. So, but I think that would be an example where it comes from the bottom, the pit of your stomach, and you do have to step up when the moment calls.
Oh, that's wonderful. I feel energized. So anyway, now let's move on to the audience. So if you can have the lights on. And so if you have a question, please raise your hand. And then there are folks with mics who would come to you. So, well, thank you. Over here, so there's a mic, so we are recording, so we should, Please identify yourself, and then, thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Schroed, Amazon. Thank you, MiMi. That was fascinating. Could you talk a little bit about the significance of the helicopter flight on Mars, why that matters for space exploration, and why that was a goal for NASA?
Yeah. So we explore, deep space, right? Targets, right? Planets, moons, asteroids, comets. With spacecraft flying by, spacecraft orbiting on Mars, we have rovers, on the moon too, but we have never flown around a planetary target. And so flying takes you a whole nother dimension, right? Like, for example, on Mars, there are sites of cliffs where we know there's been evidence of water flow in the past. To be able to fly close to those, right, that we couldn't do without flying. And so same thing with when humans get to Mars in the future, scouting far ahead before you actually drive across, those would be all important. So it really was adding the aerial dimension, to space exploration. We just hadn't flown on another planet before. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Please just wait for the mic. So.
Hi, my name is Heather Wallach. I'm at the Gates Foundation. I'm curious to hear, MiMi, if there's something out there in cutting edge space technology that you're really excited about. For example, we know that there's a lot of new opportunities enabled by advances in AI or other things that, something that we should pay attention to in the news as new technologies come out.
Oh, right now I'm obsessed with Amazon Leo. So for me, it's a dream come true. As I mentioned, as a child growing up, I really believed in a space-based solution, for connectivity, really. So just the fact that we are now at a time where private sector and different countries, are able to pursue spacecraft at this level is extraordinary, and that has to be leveraged. So in 1990, when I started at JPL in the Deep Space Network, I remember asking one of the graybeards, and I was a young signal processing, analyst, and I'm like, the atmosphere, for the little signals that comes up, the atmosphere gets really disrupted by the last mile of atmosphere. I'm sorry, the signal gets disrupted by the last mile of atmosphere. So as a signal processor, you're like, my signal to noise ratio is getting up. Can I just get, why can't we have a deep space network, in space? And I remember this graybeard guy going, oh, you young person, that would be unaffordable, not possible. And here we are, right, doing space-based solutions. So I think my excitement is now, launches, being able to get satellites, launched, right, in private sector, and really with the price of launching, I think, is coming down. We should come down more. You see a lot of private companies that are going for it, and making space more affordable, and then getting more system solutions that can do things that we couldn't do before. So I'm excited as a system based on that. So that's why I'm working on the project that I am that I'm really into.
Yeah, and I think you raised a vital point. Reusable launch, the ability to launch more and more with low costs, my God, that's going to change the game, right?
Yes, yeah.
And other countries are starting to build that too.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, I saw a hand. Yeah, just wait for the... Yeah.
I'm also from Amazon, and hopefully this is not a controversial question for you, but there's been recent news that Blue Origin is also launching something very similar as Project Leo. I'm just wondering if that's just basis healthy, competition, but do you have any insights on that?
We're all going for it. So there's, so we're all going for it. Yeah.
The more, the better.
Yes.
So we have time for one more question. So yeah, go ahead.
A little bit different topic. It's a very inspirational stories that you shared about your upbringing. But I also feel like there's a lot of sacrifice your parents made as sending you back to the States. Can you talk about their experience along with, what type of supportive system that you received from your folks?
Yeah. Two things. I mean, as I mentioned, the family, friends, very important, and mentors, very important. And don't be too. There's nothing wrong with depending on support and help. Okay, so I would just say that. I like to say, tell me, pretend I don't know anything, or I'll always ask the basic questions. So I'm always open for help. So that's number one. And this other thing is prioritizing. And so in the very intense, work, right? Like we work a lot of long hours, right? I don't think I've ever worked on a project that wasn't long hours. So, and, weekends and all this kind of stuff, because you're driven, right, for the mission. So what I've done, again, since from the Deep Space Network, I remember that, like we were young all at the time, so we actually all used to go out to dinner. I'm still friends with those folks, by the way, I communicate, like we go to dinner, we'll come back and work, or, we'll meet at somebody's place and then go in to do something else together. But I've always prioritized. So when things got really intense for me, like the family is the highest priority, so I miss a lot of dinners, like I don't know, for years I've missed it, so I don't like it. But one thing I don't give up, for example, is like my children's, their mental state, like where are they? Like where are they in their lives? Where are they in their social life, their academic life, just personal life? How are they feeling? My immediate family, right? My husband, my, family. I make sure I don't lose that. And so that's number one. And then the second then becomes friends. And so luckily I've been blessed with some friends, but I probably don't have as many friends as you all do. Because again, I know I'm sacrificing, but I have to prioritize my family. And then I do give up with the amount of time I can have friends. And I'm always grateful for when I do meet friends that, sometimes when you do click, then you do make extraordinary attempts to keep in touch. And then, of course, other niceties like, going on vacations or there's so many places I want to go, I haven't gone yet. And so, so I think prioritization. But on the other hand, I love what I do. And so I think that balance is important. So, and I think my family and friends see that, so yeah. But you definitely need to count on friends, mentors, yeah, very important.
Well, MiMi, you have been an inspiration today, and thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you to everyone for being here.
Thank you, Namrata.
Yeah,
it's
absolute
really
pleasure.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thanks to our audience for your thoughtful questions. And thank you very much to MiMi and Namrata for an inspiring conversation. I'd like to thank the Asia Society team, Paul Wozniak, Rob Motorelli, Jason Fong, our volunteers and interns, and the rest of the team in Northern California. A very special thanks to Jason Porter and the Seattle Asian Art Museum team.